today we're talking about documentary projects, documentary pitching, and developing that work for publication. Normally I'm talking about pitching your documentary project to news outlets or TV channels or magazines or large publishing platforms. But today I want to talk a little bit about making work for smaller brands, repurposing your documentary aesthetic for commercial use, which I think is something that we don't really talk about too much. But it is another way of working, and it's really quite lucrative, but also quite valuable, quite satisfying way of making documentary work. So what I mean is, over the years, I've made work for your national newspapers, those types of people, for the TV channels. And then along the way, I've grown an aesthetic that is documentary, and also a personal style around that. And what began to happen is that small businesses, well, actually it's a spectrum. So what I'm talking about is private business began to approach me, interested in the documentary aesthetic that my news work or TV work had. And they wanted to apply that aesthetic to their own projects or products. So those private companies range from the really small to the really big. So I've been on shoots for hospitals here in Houston, so Texas Medical Center, which is a really large brand. It's the largest medical center in the world, actually. I've been on shoots for Nike, private company again. This is not a documentary outlet. This is not, news media, very for profit. Or what's the other end of the spectrum? Other end of the spectrum is like, fashion shoots, small fashion shoots for people in town, portraiture in England. So these are all examples of people who wanted this aesthetic that I was producing for news media, wanted to apply it in the private sector. So there's benefits to this, though. One of the benefits is financial. They pay really well. They pay really well. Another benefit is that normally the work is a little bit more relaxed. It means that it's perhaps not time specific. You're not chasing perhaps something that is breaking news. You are not, I think that's maybe the only time specific thing is chasing something that's breaking news. But they're pretty relaxed, and they can happen on your own time scale. They're much more organized shoots. I'll give you an example, if I can, that is not breaking news. So most of the stuff that I've shot for news outlets, television, magazines, is covering an external issue or an external event that is happening outside of my control. So it might be an eviction, it might be a pandemic, it might be a I don't know, a weather event, those types of things. When shooting commercial shoots, so this is with that documentary aesthetic for a private business client, the thing that you're shooting is within your control. So, for example, I have a shoot next week with a vodka distillery. I mean, really high-end vodka, but they want a documentary film of their distillation process. That shoot, we all get together, we look at our calendars, we say, okay, well, this date will work, this date won't work, and everyone agrees on a time that it'll work. And then in the shoot as well, there's much more control over what happens in front of the camera. So it's not creating something that isn't there. It's just saying, okay, here's our shot list. Here's what we want to achieve. Let's begin shooting that now. So begin that process now. You begin that activity now, and I'll record, right? And the same with the interview. You can choose you have the luxury of time to choose where you want to situate the person, to light it correctly, all of those types of things. So this might be something that would work for you. Perhaps while you are growing your portfolio, your documentary portfolio, perhaps you've got a couple of pieces already on that portfolio. And perhaps what I'd suggest is start small, think about other private business, small brands, maybe marketing agencies in your town that you think will be interested in your aesthetic, who perhaps you've seen on social media are making stuff that's documentary or gritty or similar in style to the work that you want to make or are making, and reach out to them. Say, look, send them an email, say, look, here's a couple of pieces I've made. This is the style of work I do. Is this interesting to you in the future? What might happen is you will probably see more responses than if you are appealing straight to the major television networks or magazines, because these smaller local brands will see less emails like you're sending. There will not be many people approaching them saying, hey, look, I've got this work. Is it interesting to you? Would you like to work with me? Probably they get one of those a year. So the barrier to entry is much lower. The competition for that type of work is much lower if you start local. If you go straight to Nike, or if you go straight to Smirnoff vodka, or if you go straight to Tesla, probably, that might not be the greatest plan. So look for local businesses who are doing similar work to you. The benefit, though, as well as the competition being lower, they will probably have a similar budget as the mainstream media outlets for projects. So you can probably still go in at $1,000 a day, something like that. I do $1,000 a day for shooting, and then I do $80 an hour for editing afterwards, because the $1,000 a day for shooting, that's objective, right? You go in, you shoot, and probably there's no one looking over your shoulder saying, oh, you're shooting that wrong, or can you do that differently, or I don't like the way that looks. Shooting is normally just shooting. The edit, though, really try not to charge flat rates for the edit. If you charge a flat rate for the edit, what always happens, even with the best will in the world, even with contracts around it, and even with verbal agreements, even with signed written agreements, the client will always try to find ways of getting more and more changes, and it can go on a long time. It can go on a long time, and your role is to be welcoming and polite and creative with your clients. So it's very difficult to say no to those things, especially if they haven't paid the full fee and you want their business in the future. It's really hard. So if you charge an hourly rate, then, and you, of course, you have to let them know along the way, all right, your hourly rate is climbing pretty quick now because you're making a lot of changes. But if you're charging an hourly rate, and put in the contract that if the edit goes on too long, you're gonna invoice for that hourly rate weekly. Because if your edit goes on for 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, I've had an edit go on for a year once, but I forgot it was a flat rate as well. Oh, it really stung me. And I forgot to say that I would be invoicing on an hourly rate and also collecting invoices weekly. So it took me so long to get paid from that job. Okay, where did we go on this? So yeah, that's a way of breaking into the documentary market locally, lower barrier to entry, just as much profit. You're also helping the local community, perhaps, which is a really nice thing to be doing, developing your own community around you in your hometown without having to wade into the very competitive waters of national mainstream media outlets. This is not a cop-out. This is a very respected and usual way of working for photographers and filmmakers within this market or within documentary media. So yeah, Alex Mioli of Magnum is doing this. You know, he'll go out and shoot conflict. And I've shot next to him on Nike shoots. So he's doing that stuff. Paolo Pellegrin is making fashion stuff for many, I can't remember the brands that he worked for, but he's making fashion stuff with, I can't even remember the actors, but many people. Who else is there? Ron Haviv is sometimes making work with Lockheed Martin, which is a little controversial because he's a conflict photographer, but then also he's making photos for weapons manufacturers. Maybe that is a little bit of a strange example. But so many people, I would expect you'd be hard pushed to find a photographer or filmmaker who's not making commercial work for brands and private business concurrently. So I've got a terrible memory. My brain is blanking me on other names for you, but it's a very respected and usual way of working in the field. How to find private business contacts is just the same as finding media contacts, perhaps a little bit easier. What I normally do, if you have $20 to spare, and it's an amazing investment using just $20 to hire somebody to find those contacts for you. So what I do is I go on Upwork. You can do it yourself. You can do it yourself for sure. So, okay, we'll do the find contacts yourself route first. And Upwork's probably the same process anyway. But it is a manual thing. So for example, if you're looking for, say you want to shoot for interior design companies in New York, I mean, that's it. You just Google, and they're very, private businesses are much more transparent with their staff and with their contact information. So it's just a matter of build yourself a spreadsheet and just go down the list of Google results and just copy and paste email addresses and members of staff into there. Try to find the highest contact that you can in the company. So you're looking for a CEO or a creative director or something like that. Don't start at the bottom. You want to go straight to the top, and then email down that list. Say, hi, I'm Spike. I make work. I live here in town, and I make work on these topics. My aesthetic is perhaps similar to yours. Is there a chance that we could have a collaboration in the future? Collaboration is a really nice word because it signifies you'll be working together rather than you working for them or them working for you. But it also, it doesn't necessarily mean there's no money involved. So work down that list. You won't hear anything for a week, and then you hit them back up and you say, hi, I emailed last week. Just a reminder, I'd love to work with you, and get back to me if you want to. And Also, I find the rate of reply from private businesses higher than mainstream media outlets. Just, I think, again, because there's less competition. So there will not be many people like you asking to collaborate. The other way to find those contacts is Upwork. If you have $20 to spare, just ask an Upwork person to do that search for you, and they'll come back within 2 days with 50 contacts. It's a very efficient way to work. It just depends whether you have time or money on your hands. If you have no money, you can do it yourself and it will work just as well. If you don't have any time, but you got a little cash, then an Upwork lead generator will do that job for you just within a couple of days. And then, I mean, the return on investment there is pretty high. If you spend $20 to get a $1,000 job, you know, what else can you ask for, really? What else can you ask for? Yeah, that's about it, really. It's been nice talking today. I hope that's helpful for you. It's something that I don't really talk about before, and I feel like it's a dirty little secret, really, in documentary. I feel like people are a little bit embarrassed about making commercial work, but it's really awesome. It's a great way to supplement your growing career. It's a great way to give back to your local community. It's a great way to work with new people. It's a great way to diversify. For me, there is no downside, and it can keep you busy. You can keep hopping and hopping. You can make you can send your stuff out to one list 1 week and get 1 or 2 jobs, make a couple of grand, and then while you're doing that, you can have your virtual assistant, your Upworker, looking for a whole other set of private business clients. You don't even have to stick to one industry. You could be looking for restaurants. You know, I mean, you know, and by restaurants, I don't necessarily just mean doing food photography. I follow Daniel Hume, who runs 11 Madison Park restaurant in New York. Amazing restaurant. I'm not sure it's the best restaurant in the world right now, but it was for maybe 1 or 2 consecutive years. The photography that he commissions in his kitchen is documentary. It's beautiful. It's black and white. It's gritty. It's grainy, and it's of his chefs creating that food in the kitchen. There's no real food photography like you'd imagine. So what I'm getting at is your documentary aesthetic is applicable to so many different industries. You'll just perhaps have to convince your prospective clients of what you want to do, of thinking outside of the box of conventional real estate photography or conventional food photography, and making something that's a little bit different for them. Some will like it, some will say, no way. So yeah, so try different industries, try hospitals, try real estate, try kitchens, try events organizers. And I don't mean necessarily to be going down the wedding or the event shooting industry mindset, but you know, there's crossovers between all of these industries and the documentary aesthetic. Sports teams, imagine traveling with a sports team for a couple of days. In fact, that's something that I've done for Texas Children's Hospital. A lot of their transplant patients compete in the World Transplant Olympics every year. For 10 years, I traveled with them every year. We went to South America. We went to, where did we go? Argentina, went to Norway, Sweden, England, although I'm English, Spain, South Africa. Went so many places with them. And each time they paid me $10,000 for 1 week's work. So yeah, imagine follow a cycle team. I don't know. Look at gyms, go and reach out to your local gyms and say, look, I'm a documentary photographer, documentary filmmaker. Do you want me to make a short piece for your website or for social media on your jiu-jitsu training? You know what I mean? There's so much you can do, and the payout is quite large if you find enough contacts. It is a game of numbers because many will say no, but many will say yes also. And honestly, what do you want to earn? 5 grand a month? I mean, 10 grand a month. That's, you know, what is that? 5 days shooting plus some editing is 10 grand a month. So there you go, my friends. Now, oh, before I go, and then on the side, don't forget though, you're making those deep, culturally relevant documentary stories for mainstream media, because that is where the notoriety comes in. That's where the notoriety comes in. That's where the exhibitions come in, and that's where the gallery shows come in. So yeah, there's 2 separate business models that are complementary, and they're fairly lucrative. Thank you for listening. See you next time. Oh my goodness, another PS. This is on the Creative Method, my membership, where I give more mentorship to freelancers looking to level up their freelance career, or people trying to get into this industry. I have an offer on that closes today. So it's 30% off with the offer code 35, which means it's $35 per month rather than $49. So 30% off with the offer code 35. That closes tonight, 12 p.m. No, tonight, which is 12 a.m. And that's Central Time, which is Texas and also Chicago. Cheers. Speak to you later. Bye.